Hey guys, what's going on? Tyrauku here. I hope everyone's doing great. So as many of you may have already seen, tomorrow, the 10x event that's going to be happening is going to have a lot of really good game-changing champions. But alongside that, if you pull a legendary from Ancient Shards, only from Ancient Shards, then you get another free legendary essentially. So that's definitely really exciting. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably decided whether or not you're going to pull. A few things to keep in mind, obviously, is one, next week is the fusion. Next week is also double ancients. And with the fusion, I believe they're going to be adding some brand new champions alongside the obvious brand new legendary. So keep that in mind. There very well may be some new epics, maybe even a new legendary. I know some of the patch notes they recently released, it had mentioned two legendaries. I'm not for sure if they're going to be adding that next week or when that's going to be turned on and activated, but definitely keep that in mind if you want to pull a lot of shards. I think I'm going to try to pull mine to hopefully get the free legendary, but this video is hopefully going to help you out if you decide to pull your shards, either for the 10x, for the 2x, or just in general, whenever you're doing like champion training, especially, and you're feeding your champions. A lot of times you probably are looking in your champion vault and your champion inventory and thinking, do I really need to keep this champion? Is this champion worth having a dupe of, or can I get rid of it? So I did a video talking about some void champions, void rares, and void epics. I gave 5 total of the champions I would keep dupes of. Now, I want to do the same thing with Affinity Champions, Spirit, Force, and Magic Affinity Champions, just all in one. So I got 5 epic champions today that I want to go over. Now, I also want to ask you guys something. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But besides that, what are some rare champions that you guys think are affinity based, so non-void, that are worth keeping duplicates of? Because when I was going through here, I wasn't really able to find any that I'd be like, yeah, you definitely need to keep a duplicate of this champion because you can use them in multiple areas and make sense. So like your top tier champions like Apothecary, you're going to basically gear him the same way for a clan boss as you will for arena, as you will for dungeons, with only very, very slight variations. And personally, I couldn't find any that I was like, okay, yeah, definitely recommend this without like stretching it too far. Like obviously some of the gear is going to transfer between clan boss and arena, and so on and so forth. So the voids was really easy to do, but the affinity champions are a little more difficult. But I have come up with 5 that you definitely want to keep duplicates of, and they're very much, a few of these are very much related to faction wars, especially. The first one is Rearguard. Okay, so this one's probably an expected one. Rearguard, an absolutely amazing champion, great AoE damage based on enemies' max HP. So he's very good about clearing waves and things like the dragon. Granted, whenever the stage 25 of dungeons come out, he may be a little less valuable, but currently he's very good on dragons, very good on spiders, very good on ice golem, very good everywhere. And the thing is you can bring 2 of them as long as you got the team to support him, and he makes perfect sense. So definitely, if you pull a royal guard, you're super lucky for 1. And if you pull 2 of them, keep them both. Heck, I may even keep 3. So definitely keep 2. Honestly, Royal Guard's 1 champion I probably wouldn't feed unless you know you'll never use him. Like you don't need any extra ones of him. But if you're questioning it, just keep him. He's only going to take up a few more spots of your champion vault. I don't think it's worth accidentally feeding him and then wanting a few more. Obviously, if you got like 5 of them, yeah, go ahead and get rid of some of them. But 2, 3, definitely I would keep those for sure. The next champion is Seeker. So Seeker is a champion who I actually mentioned in the previous video, who I got a duplicate of and I fed him. And I really wish I would have thought this through because now I only have 1 copy of Seeker when I could have really used 2. So what happened was I got a Seeker, I built Bat Eater team, and I thought, I'm never going to need Seeker again. Well, I was wrong because Seeker is actually an amazing arena champion as well. So if any of you guys participate either heavily in the arena or very much in clan boss, you'll know, and I'm sure most of you do that, you'll know that the gear between arena and the gear between clan boss is very, very different, especially if you're building a Bat Eater unkillable team. So my Seeker was not optimized for the arena if I was using him in clan boss, and he wouldn't work in clan boss if I had him built specifically for the arena. So in this case, I would have needed 2 Seekers. Seeker has a little bit less utility in dungeons as you get further progressed along in the game, but he is very good for faction wars. You don't necessarily need multiple copies of him for faction wars, but using 1 in the arena and then using 1 in other areas of the game makes perfect sense. For example, my Seeker for the arena had a shield set on, And my secret for Clan Boss was speed set because he was in Bat Eater and he needs to be pretty fast. So he's the second champion I would definitely keep at least 2 copies of. You probably don't need to keep much more than that, but one for the arena and one for any other content you may or may not use him for. My third champion I want to talk about, this champion is going to be very heavily influenced like in Faction Wars, and that champion is Steel Skull. So Steel Skull is an absolutely incredible support champion. So the Skinwalkers in general very much lack support champions. So I mean, you have Rain Beast, who has some nice buffs and nice heals and so on and so forth, but is a champion who provides increased defense, heals all allies by 20% of their max HP on a 4-turn cooldown, plus a cleanse and a big heal on his A2 ability, booked down to a 3-turn cooldown, and a chance to place poison on his ability 1, which this isn't a huge chance to place it, so you're not really going to rely on this ability, but his heal on his A3 plus his heal on his A2, and then even this increased defense for the faction crypts. Obviously you only need 1 to apply this, but if you're struggling with Skinwalkers, Faction Wars, definitely think about keeping extra Steel Skulls and maybe even building another one up. You don't have to have them both at 6-star level 60. I'm pretty sure they'll work perfectly fine at 5-star level 50. You just have to get their HP, their defense at a good rate, make their speed perfect, make it where you want it to be, but their accuracy kind of hit or miss. If you want to build them for accuracy, perfect. If not, I mean, when this is booked, it only has what, 10, 20, 35% chance of placing it. So I mean, the chance of placing these poisons aren't incredible. You could even build one specifically for speed, healing, maybe throw a relentless set on him, and the other one still fast, still a good healer, but give him enough accuracy to actually land these poisons when it comes to things like Faction Wars, especially on the stages where you really need a healer, which is basically every stage. Surprise, surprise. And a lot of these champions in the Skinwalkers are pretty squishy. If you don't have these legendaries, champions like Fane, very, very squishy, and she was one of my biggest damage dealers, so definitely be careful with the Skinwalkers. Steel Skull is one champion who I probably would have kept an extra 1 of if I would have actually pulled him. I didn't get him. I did have Hawkhorn for myself to go through the Faction War stages, so I had a little bit of a benefit there. But if you need a good support champion, definitely consider keeping 2 Steel Skulls. If you're past Faction Wars, you don't really need to keep a second Steel Skull. I don't think he'll ever really come in handy, a second one, let alone a first one. You probably won't use him too heavily, but for Faction Wars, definitely worth keeping 2 of. Speaking of Faction Wars, these next 2 champions are very good in Faction Wars also. This champion specifically is good in more areas than just Faction Wars, and she's actually likely worth keeping duplicates of even outside of Faction Wars, and that's Allure. So Allure's got a lot more benefit with the Doom Towers being released, the different variations, different versions. Obviously, when the bosses had their immunity, the new immunity stat, new immunity skill, passive, or whatever it's called, added, they take less turn meter reduction, which does kind of suck, but Allure is still a very good champion, and bringing 2 of them is very good, especially for things like Faction Wars. If you want to cheese and kind of make it pretty easy, stage 21 of Demon Spawn, you can use, I believe, 3 Allures. I think Torlik, a member of my clan, hangs out on Twitch a lot. I believe he used 3 Allures, maybe? He used quite a few Allures, and he did stage 21 of the Faction Wars. Now, granted, it was a long battle. He maybe even used 4 Allures, but either way, definitely a champion worth keeping, especially if you're working on Demon Spawn Faction Wars. But even if not, you could always use, potentially, another Allure in things like the Doom Tower if the future bosses allow something like Allure to really have a big impact as far as the turn meter reduction. And I mean, if you have 2 of them, if the turn meter reduction is reduced, having 2 of them is going to help you manage that turn meter very well, especially for her A1. She's really known for this. I did a video on her a while back on how hard she can hit. She can actually hit fairly hard, but her main shining point is this turn meter reduction on her ability 1, attacks 3 times at random. Obviously, if you're going against a boss, those 3 hits are going to go against the boss only, and each hit has a 25% chance of reducing turn meter. Very, very good in Fire Knight. Heck, if you want to build one for Fire Knight, one for damage, you could do that as well. Like I showed in the previous video, she can hit fairly hard, but she's definitely not like a top tier nuker by no means, but she can hit a respectable amount. And I'll link that video somewhere around here if you guys want to check it out. It'll probably up in one of these corners or something. Now, the last champion is Rearguard Sergeant. So related to the Faction Wars, same thing. Rearguard is an incredible champion. You probably won't use her too much outside of Faction Wars, but for Faction Wars, decrease attack, AoE on her A2, decrease defense, single target, and then this ability right here, ally protection plus a continuous heal. If you're going through Dwarf Faction Wars, Stage 21 is such a pain, especially with the boss slicing people down and just absolutely wrecks your team. Dwarves really lack good support champions. If you don't pull champions like Molly, Melga, they're adding more and more over time, but currently the dwarves are very much lacking. So having 2 rearguard sergeants could very well be the difference between finishing stage 21 and not finishing stage 21. Now, you don't need to build these champions to 6-star level 60. They should do fine at 5-star level 50, depending on your gear. If you can get good enough gear where their HP and their speed is high enough, then you're perfectly fine. You just have to make sure those 2 stats are in check. But if you want to take them to 60, you can. Obviously, it's going to make it easier time building out their gear, getting their stats maxed. But if you're doing stage 21, you might as well just take your best gear from your other champions, throw it on the rearguard sergeant temporarily, use 2 of them, not a big investment, and then after you end up finishing Dwarves 21, go ahead and get rid of the second one. I doubt you'll ever use her again, to be completely honest. One of them is always good to keep because you can use her in other content possibly, and you'll probably want to have her in your auto team for Dwarves anyways, especially if you were struggling with stage 21. Like me, she is still in my auto team for stage 20. So those are the 5 epic champions that I definitely would recommend keeping dupes of. A lot of them are for faction wars. Once you finish faction wars, you can kind of part ways with one of the copies, but Seeker, Rearguard especially, and Allure possibly are 3 champions who, even outside of faction wars, are worth keeping duplicates of. So if you're early game, definitely keep this in mind. If you're mid game, definitely keep this in mind. If you haven't completed faction wars yet, keep all this in mind and be hesitant when you're getting rid of your epic champions, your epic dupes, because it's always easier, in my opinion, to level up a new 4-star champion than it is to pull another copy of a champion who you accidentally fed a while back. I like much more to do something I can control, which is leveling up a champion to 4 stars, which is the same level as an epic champion, versus leaving more RNG in Raid's hands where I'm hoping that I open up a duplicate champion down the road. So guys, I hope this video helps you out. Hopefully you take something from it. Hopefully it saves you from feeding a champion who you were considering pulling the trigger on. Now, leave some comments down below. Who do you think are some rare champions, rare affinity champions that are worth saving duplicates of? Personally, I couldn't find a ton. Let me know if I left any epics off as well, because in my opinion, there's not a ton of affinity champions who are really worth and make a solid argument for keeping duplicates of other than the ones I've mentioned. So let me know, guys. I'm sure you'll find plenty. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope this video helped you out, and I'll catch you in the next one.